Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. In today's marathon session, we'll continue with Class 8's NCERT. Yes friends, so it's my pleasure to welcome you all on Unacademy, India's largest learning platform, where you will get unlimited access for live and recorded classes, structured courses and many more. Those aspirants are pursuing graduation or after their 12th examination, planning to start their preparation, they can opt for our iconic subscription. Yes, it's our suggestion to go with iconic subscription, in which they will get all the features of plus courses along with additional features like personal guidance, study planner, test analysis, expert guidelines and many more. So those aspirants are planning to prepare for UPSC CSE examination for at least 2 years, they can go with our iconic subscription. It's me, Rushikesh Inamdar, guiding UPSC aspirants from last 8 years. You can follow me on Unacademy and you can join our Telegram group using this link. Friends, those who are looking for our paid courses, we have plus and iconic courses available on our platform. Yes. So, where you will get 10% discount after using referral code RBI Live. In these structured courses, India's top educators will guide you throughout the preparation. We have combo subscription. Yes friends, in combo subscription, you can opt for 1 year, 2 year or 3 year subscription. Here also you will get 10% discount after using referral code RBI Live. So hurry up and enroll yourself. Yes, these are the new batches. We have batches for 1 year, 2 year and NCERT batches. Yes. Those aspirants are appearing for preliminary examination this year, they can go with our free test series. Yes, just you have to unlock the tests using code RBI Live. Here we will cover your complete general studies and current affairs part. Yes, every Sunday morning 11 AM we are conducting Unacademy combat. Yes, morning 11 AM, and now this combat is available in Hindi medium also. So friends, you can use code RBI Live to unlock the Unacademy combat. So hurry up and enroll yourself. So we'll start today's session. In part 3 we'll continue, that is social and political life, part 3, and this is our series of lectures marathon, part 3 for class 8 NCERT. Yes, in our previous 2 sessions we have covered the Indian Constitution and secularism, where we have studied the Indian Constitution and understanding secularism. Yes, we have also covered Parliament and the making of laws, where we have covered why do we need a Parliament and understanding laws. Yes, we have covered the judiciary, where we have covered all the aspects of judiciary and understanding our criminal justice system. Yes, now in today's session we will cover social justice and the marginalized and economic presence of the government, where we will cover understanding marginalization and confronting marginalization and public facilities, law and social justice. So in today's session we will cover all these 2 units. So After that, we will finish our class 8 NCERT. So this is the third lecture for this NCERT part 3. Yes. Now we'll start with unit 4. So there are number of requests from students to just have a recap what we have covered. Yes. Now we'll start understanding marginalization. Yes. So friends, as we know the definition of marginalization, but what does it mean to be socially marginalized? So we have covered number of stories in our NCERT session. Yes, these stories are included in the NCERT book itself. So to be marginalized is to be forced to occupy the sides or fringes and thus not to be at the center of things. Yes, to be marginalized is to be forced to occupy the sides or fringes and thus not to be at the center of the things. So this is something that some of you have probably experienced in the classroom or playground. Yes, if you are not like most people in your class, that is if your test in music or films is different, if your ascent marks you out of from others, yes, if you are less chatty than others in your class, if you don't play the same sport that many your classmates like, and if you dress differently, the chances are that you will not be considered to be in by your peers. So often you end up feeling that you are not with it. And as what you say, feel, and think, and how you act are not quite right or acceptable to others. For example, a person who is following any other religion, if we are talking about students, those who have their different hobbies, yes, they are not choosing common way. Sometimes these students feels that they are not part of the majority. Yes, so sometimes they feel marginalized in classroom and in society. Specifically, those persons following any other religion, they are not feeling at the center of things in the society as well. Yes. So this is socially marginalized. So as example of the classroom in the social environment too, yes, at school level, in the classroom, in social environment, groups of people or communities may have the experience of being excluded. Yes, which means majority of or majority group is not considered the opinion of minority or other peoples. Yes, so their marginalization can be because they speak different language, follow different customs, or belong to a different religious group from the majority community. Yes, they may also feel marginalized because they are poor, considered to be low social status, and viewed as being less human than others. And sometimes marginalized groups are viewed with hostility and fear. Yes, sometimes marginalized groups are viewed with hostility and fear. So this sense of different and exclusion leads to communities not having access to resources and opportunities. in their inability to access their rights. They experience a sense of disadvantage and powerless, vice versa, more powerful and dominant section of society who own land, are wealthy, better educated and politically powerful. So thus marginalization is seldom experienced in one sphere. Yes, economic, social, cultural and political factors work together to make certain groups in society feel marginalized. Yes. So, in this chapter, we will read about two communities that are considered to be socially marginalized in India today. Yes. So, normally the concept of marginalization, where a group of people or specific community excluded from the regular rituals in the society. Yes. Yes, friends. Yes. So, there is a story. You can read this story which is given in NCERT. Yes. So, the story of Adivasis and marginalization. So, the story, it's all about an Adivasi family in Delhi, Soma and Helena, watching Republic Day parade on TV with their grandfather. Yes. So, you can read this story when you have idle time. Yes, friends. So, the marginalized group are viewed with hostility and fear. So, economical, social, cultural, and political factors are worked together to make certain groups in society feel marginalized. Yes. So, when this marginalized section experience a sense of disadvantage and powerless, whereas other group experience a sense of powerful, dominant. Yes. So, now you can read this story. So, we just read about how Dadu was forced to leave his village in Odisha. So, Dadu's story is similar to the lives of millions of Adivasis in India. Yes, the story is talked about the Dadu's situation when Dadu was forced to leave his village in Odisha. Yes. So, in this chapter, we will cover more about the marginalization. Yes. Now, first we'll see who are Adivasis. Yes, as I told you in story, the Dadu story is similar to the lives of millions of Adivasis in India. Now we have to understand who are Adivasis. I hope everyone aware about this term. Yes. So, Adivasis, the term literally means original inhabitants. Yes. So, our communities who lived and often continue to live in close association with forests. Around 8% of India's population is Adivasi. Yes. And many of India's most important mining and industrial centers are located in Adivasi areas. Yes, like Jamshedpur, Rourkela, Bokaro, and Bhilai. Yes, these are the examples. So, many of India's most important mining and industrial centers are located in Adivasi areas. These localities like Jamshedpur, Rourkela, Bokaro, and Bhilai. So, Adivasis are not a homogeneous population. So, there are over 500 different Adivasi groups in India. Yes. So, Adivasis, the term literally means original inhabitants. Yes, they depend on the sources of natural things. Yes, they are dependent on natural sources and forest activities for their livelihood. Yes, so Adivasis are particularly numerous in states like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and in northeastern states of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura. Yes, if we are talking about the Adivasi community in our country, so these states have population of Adivasi community. Yes, so central India, the Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh in eastern side, Odisha, Jharkhand, western side Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, in southern part Andhra Pradesh, yes, eastern part West Bengal, and in northeastern part of the country, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura have Adivasi communities. Yes. So, a state like Odisha is home to more than 60 different tribal groups. Yes, friends, we are revising the previous session's chapter. So, those who are not able to understand, we will cover the NCERT page by page in our session. So, do not panic. We will cover each and everything mentioned in the NCERT book. So, Adivasi societies are also most distinctive because there is often very little hierarchy among them. Yes, this makes them radically different from communities organized around principles of jati, varna, that is caste, or those that were ruled by kings. Yes, so this makes them radically different from communities organized around principles of caste or those that were ruled by kings. So Adivasis practice a range of tribal religions that are different from Islam, Hinduism, and Christianity. Yes. So there are range of tribal religions are different from Islam, Hinduism, and Christianity. The Adivasis practices these tribal religions. Yes. So these often involve the worship of ancestors. Yes, these religions often involve the worship of ancestors, village, and nature spirits. So the last associated with the residing in various sites in the landscape, mountain spirits, river spirits, animal spirits, etc. Yes, the last associated and with residing in various sites in the landscape like mountain spirits, river spirits, and animal spirits. So the village spirits are often worshipped at specific sacred groves within the village boundary, while the ancestral ones are usually worshipped at home. Additionally, the Adivasis have always been influenced by different surrounding religions like Shakta, Buddhist, Vaishnava, Bhakti, and Christianity. Yes, now remember that how these influenced or Adivasis have been influenced by different surrounding religions like Shakta, Buddhist, Vaishnava, Bhakti, and Christianity. I hope you have visited any tribal area or Adivasi populated region. So, simultaneously, Adivasi religions themselves have influenced dominant religions of the empires around them. For example, the Jagannath cult of Odisha, Shakti and Tantric traditions in Bengal. Yes, these Shakti and Tantric traditions in Bengal and Assam. So, during the 19th century, substantial numbers of Adivasis converted to Christianity, so which has emerged as a very important religion in modern Adivasi history. Yes, so during the 19th century, substantial numbers of Adivasis converted to Christianity by various missions, and this process of conversion has emerged as very important religion in modern Adivasi history. Yes. So the Adivasis have their own languages. Now, after the religion, we'll see the languages. So Adivasis have their own languages which have often deeply influenced the formation of mainstream Indian languages like Bengali. Yes, Santali has the largest number of speakers and has significant body of publications including magazines on the internet or e-zines. Yes, so Adivasis have their own languages, most of them radically different from and possibly as old as Sanskrit. Yes, so these own language have often deeply influenced the formation of mainstream Indian languages like Bengali. And now just remember that Santali has the largest number of speakers in Adivasi community and has significant body of publications including magazines on the internet or in e-zines. Yes, so these are the basic introduction of Adivasis. Who are Adivasis? Adivasis means originally inhabitant. Yes, they are involved in mining and industrial centers. Yes, not involving, they are populated around various mining and industrial centers like Jamshedpur, Rourkela, Bokaro and Bhilai. Yes, Adivasis are not a homogeneous population and there are 500 different Adivasi groups in India. If we are talking about states, so Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal and Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura have Adivasi population. An example like Odisha is home to more than 60 different tribal groups. Yes. So Adivasis practice a range of tribal religions. Yes. So during the 19th century, substantial numbers of Adivasis converted to Christianity, which has emerged as a very important religion in modern Adivasi history. If we are talking about languages, they have their own languages. Yes, which often deeply influenced the formation of mainstream Indian languages like Bengali, and Santali has the largest number of speakers. Yes. Now, after that, we will see Adivasis and stereotyping. So, in India, we usually showcase Adivasi communities in particular ways. Thus, during school functions or other official events, or in books and movies, Adivasis are invariably portrayed in very stereotypical ways, in colorful costumes, yes, headgear and through the dancing. So friends, we have covered in last session. Just have a recap Adivasis and stereotyping. Yes. So beside this, we seem to know very little about the realities of their lives. Yes, this often wrongly leads to people believing that they are exotic, primitive, and backward. So often Adivasis are blamed for their lack of advancement, as they are believed to be resistant to change or new ideas. And you will remember that you read, yes, we have covered in class 6th book how stereotyping particular communities can lead to people discriminating against such groups. Yes. After that, we'll cover the Adivasis and development. So we have already read. So I hope we have already read about the development of the Adivasis. Like forests were absolutely crucial to the development of all empires and settled civilization in India. Yes, metal ores like iron and copper, gold and silver, coal and diamonds, invaluable timber, most medical herbs and animal products, wax, lac, honey, and animals themselves all came from the forests. So in addition to the continuation of life dependent heavily on forest, the help recharge many of India's rivers, and as becoming clearer now, crucial to the availability and quality of our air and water. So forests covered the major part of our country till the 19th century, and the Adivasis had deep knowledge of this forest, access to, as well as control over most of these vast tracts, at least till the middle of the 19th century. So this meant that they were not ruled by large states and empires. Yes, so instead often empires heavily depended on Adivasis for the crucial access to forest resources. Yes. So here we can see Adivasis are most familiar with the forests, and forests were absolutely crucial to the development of all empires and settled civilization in India. So this is radically contrary to our image of Adivasis today as somewhat marginal and powerless communities. Yes, in the pre-colonial world, they were traditionally ranged hunters, hunter-gatherers and nomads, and lived by shifting agriculture and also cultivating in one place. So although these remain for the past 200 years, Adivasis have been increasingly forced through economic changes, forest policies, and political force applied by the state and private industry. Yes, to migrate to live as workers in plantations, at construction sites, in industries, and as economic and as domestic workers. Yes, for the first time in history, they do not control or have much direct access to the forest territories. Yes. So here is the one story. Like from the 1830s, yes, 1830s onwards, Adivasis from Jharkhand and adjoining areas moved in very large numbers to various plantations in India and the world. Yes, Mauritius, the Caribbean, and even Australia. So India's tea industry become possible with their labor in Assam. So today there are 70 like Adivasis in Assam alone, and the story of this migration is full of extreme hardship, torture, heartbreak, and death. So, for example, in the 19th century, yes, in 19th century alone, 5 lakh Adivasis had perished in these migrations. And the song below captures the hope of the migrants and the reality faced in Assam. Yes, you can read this song. Yes. So this picture is showing Britishers are involved in this forceful migration of Adivasis as laborers. Yes. So the Britishers used Adivasis or Adivasi population as laborers in various industries. Yes. So see the picture of Niamgiri Hill. Yes. The Niamgiri Hill, located in Kalahandi district of Odisha. Yes, this area is inhabited by Dongriya Khons, which is Adivasi community. So Niamgiri is the sacred mountain of this community. A major aluminium company is planning to set up a mine and a refinery here, which will displace this Adivasi community, Dongriya Khons. Yes. So friends, in multiple choice questions, in one of the exam UPSC was asked the question related to the Dongriya Khons community. Yes. So we have to read NCERT page by page to clear the concept. Yes. So, in Niyamgiri Hill, which is in Kalahandi district of Odisha, and this area is inhabited by Dongariya Kons community, which is Adivasi community. So, after that, a major aluminium company is planning to set up a mine and refinery in this locality. Yes. Yes, friends. So, a major aluminium company is planning to set up a mine and a refinery here, which will displace this Dongriya Kons Adivasi community. Then they have strongly resisted this proposed development and have joined by environmentalists as well. A case against the company is also pending in the Supreme Court. Yes. So forest lands have been cleared for timber and to get land for agriculture and industry. So Adivasis have also lived in areas that are rich in minerals and other natural resources. So these are taken over for mining and other large industrial projects. So powerful forces have often colluded to take over tribal land. Yes, much of the time the land is taken away forcefully and procedures are not followed. So according to official figures, more than 50% of persons displaced due to mines and mining projects are tribals. Yes, due to the mining and mining projects, more than 50% of tribals are displaced. Yes, another recent survey report by organizations working among Adivasis, which shows that 79% of the persons displaced from the state of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and Jharkhand are tribals. Yes, huge tracts of their lands have also gone under the waters of hundreds of dams that have been built in independent India. Yes, in the northeast, their lands remain highly militarized. So India has 104 national parks, which covering 40,501 square kilometer and 543 wildlife sanctuaries, which covering 1,18,918 square kilometer. So these are areas where tribals originally lived, but they're evicted from. So when they continue to stay in these forests, they are termed encroachers. Yes, losing their lands and access to the forest means that tribal lose their main sources of livelihood and food, having gradually lost access to their traditional homelands. Many Adivasis have migrated to cities in search of work where they are employed for very low wages in local industries or at building or construction sites. Yes, they thus get caught in a cycle of poverty and deprivation. Yes, 45% of tribal groups in rural areas and 35% in urban areas live below the poverty line. This leads to deprivation in other areas. So many tribal children are malnourished, yes, malnourished. Literacy rates among tribals are also very low. Yes, when Adivasis are displaced from their lands, they lose much more than source of income. They lose their traditions and customs, a way of living and being. They took our farming land. They left some houses. They took the cremation ground, temple, well and pond. Yes, how will we survive? Says one of the member of Adivasi community who was displaced due to the refinery project in Odisha. Yes, here is the case study and also example how the Adivasi community influenced or impacted by the process of development and industrialization. So as we have read, there exists in interconnectedness between the economic and social dimensions of tribal life. Distractions in one sphere naturally impacts the other, and often this process of dispossession and displacement can be painful and violent. Yes, it's all about Adivasis and development and marginalization. Now, after that, we'll see minorities and marginalization. Yes, in this class 8 NCERT itself, we have covered the Constitution provides safeguards to religious and linguistic minorities as a part of our fundamental rights. Yes. Now we'll see minorities and marginalization. So, why do you think these minority groups have been provided these safeguards? What is the reason behind that? Or is there need of these safeguards? Yes. Now we'll see in detail. So the term minority is most commonly used to refer to communities that are numerically small in relation to the rest of the population. Yes, minority communities are those communities who are numerically small in relation to the rest of the population. However, it is a concept that goes well beyond numbers. It encompasses issues of power, access to resources, and has social and cultural dimensions. Yes, as we have covered that, the Indian Constitution recognizes that the culture of the majority influences the way in which society and government might express themselves. So in such cases, size can be disadvantaged and lead to the marginalization of the relative smaller communities. So thus, these safeguards are needed to protect minority communities against the possibility of being culturally dominated by the majority community. Yes. Minority also protect, yes, these safeguards also protect minorities against any discrimination and disadvantage that they may face. So given certain conditions, communities that are small in number relative to the rest of the society may feel insecure about their lives, assets and well-being. So this sense of insecurity may get accentuated if the relations between the minority and majority communities are fraught, The Constitution provides these safeguards because it is committed to protecting India's cultural diversity and promoting equality as well as justice. Yes. So, our Constitution of India, which provides these safeguards because it is committed to protecting our country's cultural diversity, promoting equality as well as justice in the society. Yes, so as we have covered in judiciary chapter, the judiciary plays a crucial role in upholding the law and enforcing fundamental rights. So every citizen of India can approach the courts if they believe that their fundamental rights have been violated. And now let us understand marginalization in the context of the Muslim community. Yes, so in our society, we have seen various instances where the Muslim community feels to be excluded in other majority populated areas. Yes, so Muslims and marginalization. So according to 2011 census, Muslims are 14.2% of India's population and are considered to be a marginalized community in India. Yes. So, according to 2011 census, Muslims are 14.2% of India's population and are considered to be marginalized community in India today because in comparison to other communities, they have over the years been deprived of benefits of socio-economic development. Yes, the data in yes, the data given in tables we can refer the NCERT, which derived from different sources we will cover also, indicate the situation of the Muslim community with regard to basic amenities, literacy and public employment. Yes. So, recognizing that the Muslims in India were lagging behind in terms of various development indicators, the government set up a high-level committee in 2005, which is chaired by Justice Rajinder Sachar. The committee examined the social, economic, and educational status of the Muslim community in India. The report discusses in detail the marginalization of this community. Yes, the report suggested that on a range of social, economic, and educational indicators, the situation of the Muslim community is comparable to that of other marginalized communities like scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Yes, for example, according to the report, the average years of schooling for Muslim children between the ages of 7 to 16 is much lower than that other social religious communities. Yes, economic and social marginalization which experienced by Muslim has other dimensions as well. Yes, like other minorities, Muslims customs and practices are sometimes quite distinct from what is seen as mainstream. Some, not all Muslims, may wear burqa, sport a long beard, wear face, and these become ways to identify all Muslims. Yes, because of this, they tend to be identified differently, and some people think they are not like the rest of us. Yes, these are the common examples mentioned in this book. Yes, so often this becomes an excuse to treat them unfairly. Yes, and discriminate against them. Yes, in class 7 book, we learned about the Ansaris were fined, yes, in the chapter where the Ansaris were finding it difficult to rent a house. So this social marginalization of Muslim in some instances has led to them migrating from places where they have lived and often leading to the ghettoization of the community. Sometimes this prejudice leads to hatred and violence. Yes. So, the above section of this chapter we have saw how the case of Muslim community there is a link between economic and social marginalization. Yes, where we have covered the situation of Adivasis as well. In class 7th book, we write about the unequal status of women in India. Yes. So the experiences of all these groups like Muslim community, Adivasi community and women point to the fact that marginalization is a complex phenomenon which requiring a variety of strategies, measures and safeguards to retrace this situation. So all of us have a stake in protecting the rights defined in the constitution and the laws and policies framed to realize these rights. Without this, we will never be able to protect the diversity that makes our country unique nor realize the state's commitment to promote equality for all. Yes. Yes. So friends, this is the information like Adivasis used around 10,000 plant species. Approximately 8,000 species are used for medicinal plant purposes. Yes, 325 are used as pesticides. Yes. So how the Adivasis are dependent on forests for their livelihood? Yes, the 425 species as gums, resins and dyes, 550 as fibers, 3500 are edible. So this entire knowledge system gets wiped out when Adivasis lose their rights over the forest lands. Yes. Then this picture it denotes that Muslim women are an important part of the women's movement in India. Yes. So now as we have discussed about the tables which talked about Muslim community. Yes. So first table will show the numbers access to basic amenities like Pakka house, electricity, tap water. So Hindu, Muslim, Christian and Sikh. These are the India Human Development Report 2011. Yes. So these are the numbers. So here we can answer the question which of the communities have the most and least access to basic amenities. Then literacy rate by religion. Yes. So which of these communities have the highest and lowest literacy rate? So overall it's 74%. Yes. Then public employment of Muslims in percentage. Yes, the source by the social, economic and educational status of the Muslim community of India, which is Prime Minister's High Level Committee Report 2006. Yes. So these are the table you can study. Is available in NCERT. Yes. Now we'll conclude this understanding marginalization. So in this chapter we have tried to understand what it means to be a marginalized community. Yes, we have tried to look at this through the experiences of different marginalized communities. There are different reasons for each of these communities being marginalized. Each experiences marginalization in different ways. Yes, we have also seen that marginalization is linked to experiencing disadvantage, prejudice, and powerlessness. So, in India, there are several more marginalized communities like Dalits, Yes. So, marginalization results in having low social status and not having equal access to education and other resources. So, marginalization results in having a low social status and not having equal access to education and other resources. As we know, there are still areas where majority group or community not allowed minority or Dalit communities to access public resources. Yes, they also avoided to include it in mainstream of development. Yes, so we have to understand the situation. So, yet the lives of marginalized people can undo change, thus no one is marginalized all the time in exactly the same way. Yes, if we go back, the two examples of marginalization we have discussed, we will see that each of these groups have a long history of struggle and resistance. So marginalized communities want to maintain their cultural distinctiveness while having access to rights, development and other opportunities. Yes, now we will read the next chapters about how different groups have confronted marginalization. Yes. Now we have covered the understanding marginalization. Now we'll start confronting marginalization. Yes. So see the Sacha committee report, which also debunking other prevalent myths about Muslims. Yes, it is commonly believed that the Muslims prefer to send their children to madrasas. The figures show that only 4% of Muslim children are in madrasas, whereas 66% attended government schools and 30% private schools. Yes. So friends, do not forget to attend our new batches. We have NCERT batches for UPSC CSE Prelims. We have 1 year batches for UPSC CSE Prelims and also 2 years batches. So as per your convenience, you can join these batches. Yes, do not forget to enroll yourself for free test series where we will cover complete general studies and current affairs. So you can use referral code RBI Live to unlock these tests. Yes. Unacademy Combat we are conducting on every Sunday morning 11 a.m. So you can participate in this combat as well. Now we'll continue with the next chapter, that is confronting marginalization. Yes. So we have read about two different groups in previous chapter and their experiences of inequality and discrimination. Yes. So the powerless such groups have fought, protested, and struggled against being excluded or dominated by others, that is, majority community. Yes, these communities or the people have attempted to overcome their situation by adopting range of strategies in their long history. Yes, religious solace, armed struggle, self-improvement and education, economic uplift. There appears to be no one way of doing things. So in all cases, the choice of struggle has depended on the circumstances that the marginalized find themselves in. Yes. So in this chapter, we will read about some of the ways in which groups and individuals challenge existing inequalities. Yes, the Adivasis, Dalits, Muslims, women, and other marginal groups argue that simply by being citizen of democratic country, they possess equal rights that must be respected. Many among them look up to the constitution to address their concerns. So in this chapter, we will see why the Constitution of India is something that marginalized groups invoke in the course of their struggle. Yes, their struggles. So as a part of this, we will look at how rights are translated into laws to protect groups from continued exploitation, and we will also look at the government's effort to formulate policies to promote the access of these groups to development. Yes, invoking fundamental rights. Yes, so the constitution, as we have learned in the first chapter itself, which lays down the principles that make our society and polity democratic. They are defined in though the list of fundamental rights that are an important part of constitution. Yes, as we have covered our constitution, which talked about the democracy for all, and these principles are defined to the list of fundamental rights, which are the important part of our Indian constitution. So these rights are available to all Indians equally. Yes. So as far as marginalized are concerned, they have drawn on these rights in two ways. First, by insisting on their fundamental rights, they have forced to the government to recognize the injustice done to them. And second, they have insisted that the government enforce these laws. So in some instances, the struggles of the marginalized have influenced the government to frame new laws in keeping with the spirit of the fundamental rights. Yes, Article 17 of the Constitution, which states that untouchability has been abolished. What this means is that no one can henceforth prevent Dalits from educating themselves, which entering temples, using public facilities. So it also means that it is wrong to practice untouchability and that this practice will not be tolerated by a democratic government. So in fact, untouchability is a punishable crime now. Yes. So there are other sections in the Constitution that help to strengthen the argument against untouchability. For example, Article 50 of the Constitution notes that no citizen of India shall be discriminated against on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Yes, so this has been used by Dalits to seek equality where it has been denied to them. Yes, the constitutional references for this, yes. So therefore, Dalits can invoke or draw on a fundamental right in situation where they feel that they have been treated badly by some individual or community or even by the government. Yes, they have drawn the attention to the attention of the government. Yes. So they have drawn the attention of the government of India to the constitution, which demanding that the government abide by it and do justice to them. Yes. So likewise, other minority groups have drawn on fundamental rights section of our constitution, and they have particularly drawn upon the right to freedom of religion and culture and educational rights. Yes. So in the case of cultural and educational rights, the distinct cultural and religious groups like the Muslims and the Parsis have the right to be the guardians of the content of their culture, as well as the right to make decisions on how base this content is to be preserved. Yes, thus by granting different forms of cultural rights, the Constitution tries to ensure cultural justice to such groups. The Constitution does this so that the culture of these groups is not dominated nor wiped out by the culture of the majority community. Yes. Then, laws for the marginalized. Yes. So, as we have read, the government makes laws to protect its citizens, yet this is not the only way in which it takes actions. So there are specific laws and policies for marginalized in our country. There are policies or schemes that emerge through other means like setting up a committee or by undertaking survey, etc. The government then makes an effort to promote such policies in order to give opportunities to specific groups. Yes, in our country, the government is running various schemes and policies. Yes, for the upliftment of marginalized society. Yes, government makes an effort to promote various policies where these marginalized groups will get an equal opportunity. Yes, promoting social justice. So as a part of their effort to implement the constitution, both state and central governments create specific schemes for implementation in tribal areas or in areas that have a high Dalit population. So for example, the government provides for free or subsidized hostels for students of Dalit and Adivasi communities so that they can avail of education facilities that may not be available in their localities. Yes, as we have seen in our surroundings, like at district level and state level, the government running hostels, yes, which means they're providing free and or subsidized hostels for students of Dalit and Adivasi communities to get education. Yes, then in addition to providing certain facilities, the government also operates through laws to ensure that concrete steps are taken to end inequality in the system. Yes, one such way law policy is the reservation policy that today is both significant and highly contentious. The laws which reserve seats in education and government employment for Dalits and Adivasis are based on an important argument that in a society like ours, where for centuries sections of the population have been denied opportunities to learn and to work in order to develop new skills or vocations, a democratic government which needs to step in and assist these sections. Yes. So how does the reservation policy work? So government across India have their own list of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and backward and most backward castes. Yes, the central governments too has its list. Yes. Now, so students applying to educational institutions and those applying for posts of government are expected to furnish proof of their caste or tribe status. So in the form of caste and tribe certificates. Yes, if a particular Dalit caste or a certain tribe is on the government list, then a candidate from that caste or a tribe can avail the benefits of reservation. Yes, for admission to colleges, especially to institutes of professional education, such as medical colleges, governments define a state of cutoff marks. This means that not all Dalit and tribal candidates can qualify for admission, but only those who have done reasonably well and secured marks above the cutoff point. So government also offered special scholarships for these students. Yes. So the confronting marginalization where invoking fundamental rights, law for the marginalized, promoting social justice in the society. Yes. Then the scholarship and other schemes for the equal opportunity in education. Yes. So the term Dalit, which means broken, is used deliberately and actively by groups to highlight the centuries of discrimination they have experienced within the caste system. Yes. So friends, here we have covered the marginalization and confrontation for that. Yes. So now in NCERT there are various stories and poems. So here is the example. The poem below is written by Soirabai, the wife of well-known Bhakti poet Sokha Mela from 14th century. Yes. So they belong to the Maha caste, which was that time considered untouchable. Yes, so you can read this poem. So, quoted in Uma Chakravarti, Gendering Caste through a feminist lens, 2003, where Soirabai is questioning the idea of purity. Yes, arguing that since every human is born in the same manner, there is nothing that makes one body less or more pure than the other. Yes, she is possibly also trying to say that pollution, a key tool of the caste. Yes, say that pollution, a key tool of the caste system to separate or deny people access to spaces, work, knowledge, and dignity, which occurs not through the nature of work done, but from within, from your thoughts, values, and beliefs. Yes, there is also Kabir's poem, also in our various languages textbooks. So, Kabir was a 15th century poet and wearer who belonged to the Bhakti tradition. Yes. So, in his view, Kabir's view, every person had the ability to reach the highest level of spiritual salvation and deep knowledge within themselves. Through their own experience, his poetry brings out the powerful idea of the equality of all human beings and their labor. He writes about valuing the work of the ordinary potter, the weaver, and the woman carrying the water pot. Yes, labor that in his poetry becomes the basis of understanding the entire universe. Yes. So the Kabir direct courageous challenge inspired many, and even today's Kabir's poetry is sung and appreciated by Dalits, marginalized groups, and those critical of social hierarchies in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar, and Gujarat. Yes. So you can read the various poems created by poets for the social awareness regarding the marginalization. Yes. So now we'll see the protecting the rights of Dalits and Adivasis. So in addition to policies, our country also has specific laws that guard against the discrimination and exploitation of marginalized communities. Yes. Now we'll read the case study adopted from a real life account to understand how Dalit use protection that laws provide. Yes. So, in addition to policies, our country also has specific laws that guard against discrimination and exploitation. So we'll see this one case study for the protecting the rights of Dalits and Adivasis. The villages of Jakmalgur are gearing up for a big festival. So once in 5 years, the locality deity is honored and priests from 20 neighboring villages come for this 5-day event. The ceremony begins with a member of Dalit community which washing the feet of all the priests and then bathing in the water used for this. Yes, in Jakmalgur, the person who performed this task belonged to Ratnam's family. Yes, his father and grandfather had both performed the same task before him, though they were never allowed to enter the temple. This ritual was viewed as a great honor bestowed on them on this special occasion. Now it was Rantham's turn. Rantham was all of 20 years studying engineering in a nearby college. He refused to perform the ritual. He said that he had no faith in this practice and that his family members were forced to perform this ritual because they were Dalits. So, Ratnam's refusal angered both the powerful caste in the village and some families from his own community. The powerful caste were shocked that such a young boy had the guts to refuse. They believed that it was Ratnam's education which allowed him to imagine that he could start comparing himself with them. So those from Ratnam's own caste were fearful of angering the powerful. Many worked off their fields as daily wage laborers. If the dominant caste decided to not call them, then what would they earn for their livelihood and how would they survive? So they also declared that the wrath of the local deity would strike them if they refused to give in. So Ratnam argued that given that not a single Dalit had even entered in the temple, yes, entered the temple, how could the deity be angry with them? Yes, the powerful caste decided to teach Ratnam a lesson. His community was ordered to ostracize him and his family. Yes, his community was ordered to ostracize him and his family, and everyone was told that no one should speak or do any work for them or with them. So one night, some man entered their part of the village and set his hut on fire. He managed to escape with his mother. Ratnam then went to file a case in the local police station under the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Act 1989. Yes, which is prevention of atrocities. So other Dalit families still did not come out in his support as they were scared that a similar fate might await them if they spoke out. See the situation and this condition. The case was picked up by the local media and led to many journalists visiting the village. The Ratnam was written about as a symbol of Dalit action and the ritual was called off, but his family was forced to move out as they continued to be ostracized by the powerful castes in the village. So the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989 Ratnam sought the support of law, filing his complaint. under the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Act 1989 to protect against the domination and violence of the powerful caste in his village. This act was framed in 1989 in response to demands made by Dalits and other that the government must take seriously the ill treatment and humiliation Dalits and tribal groups face in an everyday sense. So while such treatment had persisted for a long time, it had acquired a violent character in the late 1970s and the 1980s. Yes, this act is known as Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Yes, so during this period in parts of southern India, a number of assertive Dalit groups came into being, asserted their rights. They refused to perform their so-called caste duties and insisted on being treated equally like Ratna. They refused to follow practices located in the humiliation and exploitation of Dalits. This resulted in the more powerful caste unleashing violence against them in order to indicate to the government that untouchability was still being practiced and in the most hideous manner. Yes, Dalit groups demanded new laws that would list the various sorts of violence against Dalits and prescribe stringent punishment for those who indulged in them. So, overall, we'll summarize that when member of marginalized community facing any concerns, then the Indian Constitution already provided safeguards to protect marginalized community from discrimination. Yes, so likewise throughout the 1970s and 80s, Adivasi people successfully organized themselves under themselves and demanded equal rights for their land and resources. Yes. So they too had to face the anger of powerful social groups and were subject to a great deal of violence. So this is why Act contains a very long list of crimes, some of which are too horrible even to contemplate. The Act does not only describe terrible crimes, but also let people know what dreadful deeds human beings are capable of. Yes, in this sense, laws such as this seek to both punish as well as influence the way we think and act. Yes. So the Act distinguishes several levels of crimes. Yes. Firstly, it lists modes of humiliation that are both physically horrific and morally reprehensible and seek to punish those who force a member of scheduled caste or scheduled tribe to drink, eat any inedible or obnoxious substance. Yes, the act seeks to punish those who forcibly remove cloth from the person of a member of a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe or parades him or her neck with painted face or body or commits any similar act which is derogatory to to human dignity. Yes, this act punish those who wrongfully occupies or cultivates any land owned by or allotted to a member of scheduled caste or scheduled tribes gets the land allotted him transferred. Yes, so secondly, it lists actions that disposes Dalit and Adivasis of their meagre resources which are forced them to performing slave labor. So thus the act says of the punishment in this regard. And another level, the act recognizes that crimes against Dalit and tribal women are of a specific kind and therefore seeks to penalize anyone who assaults or uses force on any woman belonging to a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe with intent to dishonor her. Yes. Now, after that, we'll see the scourge of manual scavenging. So, manual scavenging refers to the practice of removing human and animal waste, excreta using brooms, tin plates, and basket from dry latrines and carrying it on the head to the disposal grounds some distance away. So, a manual scavenger is the person who does the job of carrying this filth. This job is mainly done by Dalit women and young girls. According to the Andhra Pradesh based Safai Karmachari Andolan, yes, along with these marginalized communities, now we'll see the scourge of manual scavenge. So, according to the Andhra Pradesh based Safai Karmachari Andolan, an organization working with manual scavengers, yes, there are 1 lakh persons from Dalit communities who continue to be employed in this job in this country and who work in 26 lakh private and community dry latrines managed by municipalities. So, manual scavengers are exposed to subhuman conditions of work and face serious health hazards. They are constantly exposed to infections that affect their eyes, skin, respiratory, and gastrointestinal systems. They get very low wages for the work they perform. Those working in urban municipalities earn 200 per day, and those working privately are paid much less. Yes, those working privately are paid much less. So, as we have covered that, the practice of untouchability has been abolished by the Indian Constitution. However, manual scavengers in different parts of the country, the Bangis in Gujarat, Pakis in Andhra Pradesh, and the Sikaliyas in Tamil Nadu, continue to be considered untouchable. They often live in separate settlements on the outskirts of the village and are denied access to the temple, public water facilities, and so on. So, what happened in 1993? The government passed the Employment of Manual Scavengers and Construction of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act. This law prohibits the employment of manual scavengers as well as construction of dry latrines. In 2003, the Safai Karmachari Andolan and 30 other organizations, individuals including 7 scavengers, filed a PIL in the Supreme Court, and the petitioners complained that manual scavenging still existed and it continued in government undertakings like the railways. So the petitioners sought enforcement of their fundamental rights. The court observed that the number of manual scavengers in India had increased since 1993 law. Yes, which is directed every department, Ministry of the Union Government and state governments to verify the fact within 6 months. And if manual scavenging was found to exist, then the government department has to actively take up a time. Yes, actively take up a time-bound program for their liberation and rehabilitation. The prohibition of employment as manual scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act came into force on 6th December 2013. Yes. You see the picture where a manual scavenger at work and members of the Safai Karmachari Andolan in Andhra Pradesh demolishing a dry latrine. Yes. So, now after this scavenging, we'll see Adivasi demands under 1989 Act. Yes, the 1989 Act is important for another reason, where Adivasi activists refer to it, defend their right to occupy land that was traditionally theirs. And we have read in previous chapter, Adivasis are often unwilling to move from their land and forcibly displaced. Yes. So, activists have asked that those who have forcibly encroached upon tribal lands should be punished under this law. Yes. They have also pointed to the fact that this act merely confirms what has already been promised to the tribal people in the constitution, so that land belonging to tribal people cannot be sold to or bought by non-tribal people. So in cases where this was happened, the constitution guarantees the right of tribal people to repossess their land. Yes. So CK Janu, an Adivasi activist, has also pointed out that one of the violators of constitutional rights guaranteed to tribal people are governments in the various states of India. Yes, for it is they who allow non-tribal encroachers in the form of timber merchants, paper mills, etc., which exploit tribal land and to forcibly evict tribal people from their traditional forest in the process of declaring forest as reserved or a sanctuaries. Yes. So, as we can see, the existence of a right or a law or even a policy on a paper does not mean that it exists in reality. Yes, people have had to constantly work on or make efforts to translate these into principles that guide the actions of their fellow citizens or even their leaders. The desire for equality, dignity, and respect is now new. So it has existed in different forms throughout our history, as we have seen in this chapter, and similarly even in a democratic society, similar processes of struggle, writing, negotiation and organizing need to continue. Yes, so friends, that's it for the confronting marginalization, where we have covered invoking fundamental rights, law for the marginalized, yes, then promoting social justice, yes, then we have covered the information related to Dalit and activists like Soirabai and Kabir. These are the intellectuals who spread awareness. Then we have covered protecting the rights of Dalits and Adivasis. Yes, we have covered the scheduled caste and the Scheduled Tribes Act 1989. Yes. Yes. Uses water is purchased from tankers. So Subramanian spends up to 500 to 600 per month for buying water from the tankers. Yes, for drinking water, residents have installed water purification systems in their homes. Yes. Now next situation where Siva lives on a rain on the first floor of a house in Madipakam and gets water once in 4 days. Shortage of water is one major reason why Siva can't bring his family to Chennai. Yes, for drinking, Siva buys bottled water. Yes, the Padma works as a domestic help in Sedapet and lives in the nearby slum. She pays a rent of rupees 650 for the hutment, which has neither a bathroom nor a tap connection. For 30 such hamlets, there is common tap at one corner, in which water comes from a bore well for 20 minutes twice daily. A family gets fill a maximum of 3 buckets within this time, and the same water is used for washing and drinking. So in summer, the flow becomes a trickle so that one family gets water only at the cost of another. So people have to wait long hours for water tankers. Yes. Now friends, here there are 3 examples from 3 different areas of Chennai. Now, you will think why we are studying this. Yes. See the reason behind that. We will cover this public services. Yes. That is public facilities. Now where situation of Mr. Ram Gopal in Annanagar, Padma's situation in Sadiapet. Yes. Then Siva's situation and Subramaniam's situation in Malapad. Yes. So now, if we are talking about public facilities, the water as part of the fundamental right to life. Yes, water is essential for life and for good health. Not only is it necessary for us to be able to meet our daily needs, but safe drinking water can prevent many water related diseases. Yes, India has one of the largest number of cases of disease such as diarrhea, dysentery, cholera. So over 1,600 Indians, most of them children below the age of 5, which reportedly die every day because of water-related diseases. These deaths can be prevented if people have access to safe drinking water. So the Constitution of India recognizes the right to water as being a part of the right to life under Article 21. Yes, the Constitution of India, which recognizes the right to water as being a part of right to life under Article 21. And this means that it is the right for every person, whether rich or poor, to have sufficient amounts of water to fulfill his or her daily needs at a price that she can afford. In other words, there should be universal access to water. Yes. So, there have been several court cases in which both the High Courts and the Supreme Court have held that the right to safe drinking water is a fundamental right. So in 2007, the Andhra Pradesh High Court restated this while hearing a case based on a letter written by a villager of Mahabubnagar district on the contamination of drinking water. Yes, the villager's complaint was that a textile company was discharging poisonous chemicals into a stream near his village, which contaminating groundwater and which was the source of irrigation and drinking water. The judges directed the Mahabubnagar district collector to supply 25 liters of water to each person in the village. Yes. So public facilities like water, there are other essential facilities that need to be provided everywhere. Yes. Where we have covered in previous NCERTs. Other such facilities like healthcare and sanitization. Yes. So similarly, there are things like electricity, public transport, schools and colleges that are also necessary. Yes, the public facilities like electricity, public transport, schools and colleges, yes, that are also necessary for the overall development of human being. Yes. Now, these are known as public facilities. So the importance characteristics of public facility is that once it is provided, its benefits can be shared by many people. For instance, a school in the village will enable many children to get educated. Similarly, a supply of electricity to an area can be useful for many people. Farmers can run pump set to irrigate their fields. People can open small workshops that run on electricity. Students will find it easier to study, and most people in the village will benefit in some way or the other. Yes, now we'll see the government's role. Yes. So, given that public facilities are so important, which someone must carry the responsibility of providing providing these to the people. So the someone is the government. Yes, this someone is the government. So the public facilities are so important, and someone must carry the responsibility to providing the people, which means government must carry the responsibility of providing these to the people. So one of the most important functions of the government is to ensure that these public facilities are made available to everyone. So let us try and understand why the government must bear this responsibility. Yes, we have seen that private companies operate for profit in the market. Yes, we read about the story of Shut in class 7th book. So in most of the public facilities, there is no profit to be had. For example, what profit can accrue to a company for keeping the drains clean or running an anti-malaria campaign? So private company will probably not be interested in undertaking this such work. But for other public facilities such as schools and hospitals, private companies may well be interested. So we have many of this, particularly in large cities. So similarly, if you are living in a city, you will have seen private companies supplying water through tankers or supplying drinking water in sealed bottles. Yes, in such cases, private companies provide public facilities but at a price that only some people can afford. Hence, this facility is not available to all at an affordable rate. And if we go by the rule that people will get as much as they can pay for them, many people who cannot afford to pay such facility, yes, facilities will be deprived of the opportunity to live a decent life. Yes, so clearly this is not desirable option. So public facilities relate to people's basic needs. So any modern society requires that these facilities are provided so that people's basic needs are met. So the right to life that the constitution guarantees for all persons living in this country. So the responsibility to provide public facilities therefore must be that of the government. Yes. Now see the Sustainable Development Goal SDGs Goal 6, that is clean water and sanitization. Yes. So here is the information like where does the government get money for public facilities? Yes, sources of the government to get money for public facilities. So every year we must have heard the government budget being presented in the parliament. So this is an account of the expenses and the government has made on its programs in the past year and how much it plans to spend in the coming year. So in the budget, the government also announces the various ways in which it plans to meet these expenses. Yes, the main source of revenue For the government is the taxes collected from the people, and the government is empowered to collect these taxes and use them for such programs. Yes, for instance, to supply water, the government has to incur cost in pumping water, carrying it over long distances, laying down pipes for distribution, treating the water for impurities, and finally collecting treating wastewater. So it meets these expenses partly from the various taxes that it collects and partly by charging a price for water. So this price is set to that most people can afford a certain minimum amount of water for daily use. Yes. Now see, the Indian Constitution guarantees the right to education for all children between the ages of 6 to 14 years. So equity in the schooling facility available to all children is an important aspect of this right. And however, activities and scholars working on education have documented the fact that schooling in India continues to be highly unequal. Yes, the government needs to play an active role in providing adequate access to proper health facilities for the entire population, and this includes the eradication of preventable diseases like polio as shown in the photograph. Yes. So friends, as we know, in this current pandemic also, the government needs to play an active role providing adequate access for proper health facilities. Yes, which we have already experienced in the COVID pandemic. Yes. Now see, the central government spends money on rupees goes to. Yes, the rupees goes to 24 paisa on state's share of taxes and duties, then 80 paisa interest payments, central sector schemes 10 paisa, central sponsored scheme 9 paisa, defense 9 paisa, subsidies 9 paisa, finance commission and other transfers 8 paisa, other expenditure 8 paisa, pensions 5 paisa. Yes, how rupees goes, these are the expenses of the central government which spends money on these sectors like pensions, other expenditure, finance commission and other transfers, subsidies, defense, centrally sponsored schemes, central sector schemes, interest payments, and state share of taxes and duties. Yes, this is the source of Union Budget 2018-19. Then, after this, we'll see tax revenue of central government. The rupees comes from goods and services tax. Yes, this is the source of Union Budget of 2018 and 19. So goods and services tax, GST and other taxes 23%, borrowings and other liabilities 19%, corporated tax 19%, income tax 16%, non-tax revenue 8%, union excise duties 8%, customs 4%, and non-debit capital receipts 3%. Yes. So, if we are talking about public facilities, so buses are the most important forms of public transport over short distances, and it is the main link to the workplace for majority of the working people. So with rapid urbanization, the public bus system is the public bus system even in the major cities has not been able to keep up with the demand. So as an alternative, the government has planned ambitious metro rail projects for Delhi and other metropolitan cities. Yes, rupees 11,000 crore was spent from the government budget for the construction of the first segment of metro rail in Delhi. Yes, using the latest technology. So people have pointed out that this massive expenditure could have been avoided if only a fraction of this amount was spent on upgrading the public bus system. Yes. Now, after that, water supply to Chennai, is it available to all? So while there is no doubt that public facilities should be made available to all, in reality, we see that there is a great shortage of such facilities. So in the rest of this chapter, we'll read about the provision of water, which as we have seen is a public facility of great importance. Yes, water supply in Chennai, as we saw, the beginning of the chapter is marked by shortages, and municipal supply meets only about half the needs of the people of the city, which is on an average, and there are areas which get water more regularly than others. Yes. So that those areas that are close to the storage points get more water, whereas colonies further away receive less water. So the burden of shortfall in water. Yes, the burden of shortfalls in water supply, which falls mostly on the poor and the middle class, when faced with water shortages, are able to cope through the variety of private means such as digging bore wells, buying water from tankers, and using bottled water for drinking. Yes, apart from the availability of water, access to safe drinking water is also available to some, and this depends on what one can afford. Yes, once again, the wealthy have more choices than, yes, more choices thanks to the booming market in bottled water and water purifiers. So people who can afford it have safe drinking water, whereas the poor again left out. Yes, in reality, therefore it seems that it is only people with money who have the right to water, a far cry from the goal of universal access to sufficient and safe water. Yes, now taking water from farmers. The shortage of water, which has opened up opportunities for private companies in a big way. Yes, many private companies are providing water to cities by buying it from places around the city. Yes, in Chennai, water is taken from the nearby towns like Mamandur, Palu, Karungizi, and from villages to the north of the city using a fleet over 13,000 water tankers. Yes, every month the water dealers pay farmers an advance for the rights to exploit water resources on their land? Yes, this is water taken away, not just from agriculture, but also from the drinking water supplies of the villages. Yes, groundwater levels have dropped drastically in all these towns and villages as a result. Yes. So how the business of water tankers spread in metro cities, which affected the water for agriculture and also drinking water supplies to the nearby villages. Yes. So in rural areas, water is needed both for human use and use by the cattle. So the sources of water are wells, hand pumps, ponds and sometimes overhead tanks. So much of these are privately owned. So compared to the urban areas, there is an even greater shortage of public water supply in rural areas. Yes, in the picture, woman collecting water from the dig. Yes. So, goal 11 of Sustainable Development Goals is to sustainable development goal like sustainable cities and communities. So, make cities and human settlements include safe, resident, and yes, safe, resident, and sustainable. Yes. So, in search of alternatives. So, the situation in Chennai is not unique. A similar scenario of shortage and acute crisis during the summer months is common to other cities of India. So the shortage in municipal water is increasingly being filed by an expansion of private companies who are selling water for profit, and also common are the great inequalities in water use. The supplies of water per person is an urban area in India should be about 135 liters per day. Yes, the supply of water per person in an urban area in our country should be about 135 liters per day. Yes, that is about 7 buckets, a standard set by the Urban Water Commission, whereas people in slums have to make to do with less than 20 liters a day per person, that is 1 bucket. So people living in luxury hotels may consume as much as 1600 liters, that is 80 buckets of water per day. So a shortage of municipal water is often taken as a sign of full failure of the government. So some people argue that since the government is unable to supply the amount of water that is needed and many of the municipal water departments are running at a loss. So we should allow private companies to take over the task of water supply. So according to them, private companies can perform better. Yes. So now we'll see the facts like throughout the world, water supply is a function of the government and there are few instances of private water supply. There are areas in the world where public water supply has achieved universal access? Yes. In a few cases where the responsibility of water supply was handed over to private companies, there was a steep rise in the price of water, which making it unaffordable for many, and cities saw huge protests within riots breaking out in places like Bolivia, forcing the government to take back the service from private hands. Yes. So within India, there are cases of success in government water departments, though these are few in number and limited to certain areas of their work. The water supply department in Mumbai raises enough money through water charges to cover its expenses on supplying water. In Hyderabad, a report shows that the department has increased coverage and improved performance in revenue collection. In Chennai, the department has taken several initiatives for harvesting rainwater to increase the level of groundwater, and it has also used the services of private companies for transporting and distributing water. But the government water supply department decides the rate of water tankers and gives them permission to operate. So hence they are called on contract. Yes, the responsible consumption and production is the sustainable development goal. Yes, this is goal 12 of SDGs. Yes, and other two pictures, which these two pictures are showing that Mumbai's suburban railway is a well-functioning public transport system. It is the densest route in the world, attending to 65 lakh passengers daily, which extending over a distance of 300 kilometers. So these local trains allow people living far away from Mumbai to find work in the city. And note that the high cost of living in the cities makes it impossible for an average worker to live in the city. Yes. Now, these are for the public facilities. Now we'll see. After that, the common public facilities like latrines and all. So latrines for us, they excellent in astonishment. We go and perform our functions out in the open. So latrines are for you big people. Mahatma Gandhi recounting untouchable grievances. That is Rajkot Sanitation Committee 1896. So besides safe drinking water, sanitization is a must in prevention of waterborne diseases. So however, the sanitization coverage in India is even lower than that of water. So official figures for 2011 which shows that 87% of households in India have access to drinking water, and about 53% have access to sanitization, that is toilet facilities within the premises of residents. So once again, it is the poor both in the rural and urban areas who lack access to sanitization. Yes, Sulabh, a non-government organization, has been working for nearly 5 decades to address the problems of sanitization, which facing low caste, low income people in India. So it has constructed more than 8,500 community toilet blocks and 1.5 million household toilets, giving access to sanitization to 20 million people. So the majority of the users of Sulabh facilities are from the poor working class. Yes. So the Sulabh enters into contracts with municipalities or other local authorities to construct toilet blocks with government funds, and local authorities provide land and funds for setting up the services, whereas maintenance costs are sometimes financed through the user charges. Yes, for example, rupees 2 rupees is charged for use of the latrines in the cities. Yes. After that, if we are talking about public facilities, so the census of India 2008 or 2001, which puts rural household electrification at 44%, which leaving around 78 million households still in the dark. Yes, so the facility of electricity. So here we can conclude like public facilities relate to our basic needs, and the Indian Constitution recognizes the right to water, health, education, etc. as being a part of the right to life. Thus, one of the major roles of the government is to ensure adequate public facilities for everyone. But progress on this front has been far from satisfactory, and there is shortage in supply, and there are inequalities in distribution. So compared to the metros and large cities, yes, towns and villages are underprovided. So compared to wealthy localities, the poorer localities are underserviced. Yes, handing over these facilities to private companies may not be the answer. So any solution needs to take account of the important fact that every citizen of the country has a right to these facilities, which should be provided to her or him in an equitable manner. Yes. So it's all about the public facilities. Yes, so we have covered the public facilities. So friends, do not forget to attend Unacademy Combat on every Sunday morning 11 a.m. Yes, it's absolutely free. You can enroll yourself for Unacademy Combat. Yes, now this is available in Hindi medium also. So this is India's biggest free scholarship test. So you can use code RBI Life to enroll for the Unacademy Combat. Yes, now friends, we'll see next chapter. So we have covered public facilities. Now we'll see law and social justice. Yes. So, in this chapter, we'll learn about law and social justice. So, here is the reference of our class 7th story of a shirt. Yes, we have covered in class 7th NCERT. So, we saw there that a chain of markets link the producer of cotton to the buyer of the shirt in the supermarket. So buying and selling was taking place at every step in the chain. Yes. So many of the people directly or indirectly involved in the production of the shirt, the small farmer producing cotton, the weavers of Erode or the workers in the garment exporting factory. Yes, workers in the garment exporting factory faced exploitation or an unfair situation in the market. Yes, markets everywhere tend to exploitive of people, whether as workers, consumers, or producers. So, to protect people from such exploitation, the government makes certain laws. These laws try to ensure that the unfair practices are kept at a minimum in the market. Yes, so law and justice. Yes, see the pictures is talked about. The laborers working in metro cities. So, let us take a common market situation where the law is very important. Yes, this is the issue of workers' wages. So, private companies, contractors, business persons normally want to make much profit as they can. Yes, as we know, any person or the organization is doing their business, they're working for profits. Yes. Now, in the drive for profits, they might deny workers their rights and not pay their wages. For example, in the eyes of the law, it is illegal or wrong to deny workers their wages, and similarly, to ensure that workers are not underpaid. Yes, are paid fairly. So workers are paid fairly. And there is a law on minimum wages. So worker has to be paid not less than the minimum wage by the employer, and the minimum wages are revised upwards every few years. Yes, as with the law on minimum wages, which is meant to protect workers, there are also laws that protect the interest of producers and consumers in the market. These help ensure that the relations between these three parties, the worker, consumer, and producer, so are governed in a manner that is not exploitive. Yes. So, but merely making laws is not enough. The government has to ensure that these laws are implemented. This means that the law must be enforced. enforcement becomes even more important when the law seeks to protect the weak from the strong. For instance, ensure that every worker gets fair wages, the government has to regularly inspect work sites and punish those who violate the law. Yes, when workers are poor or powerless, the fear of losing future earnings or facing reprisals often forces them to accept low wages. Employers know this well and use their power to pay workers less than the fair wage. In such cases, it is crucial that laws are enforced. Yes, through making, enforcing and upholding these laws, the government can control the activities of individuals or private companies so as to ensure social justice. Many of these laws have their basis in the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. And for instance, the right against exploitation says that no one can be forced to work for low wages or under bondage. And similarly, the Constitution lays down no child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mines or engaged in any other hazardous employment. Yes. So how are these laws played out in practice? Yes. To what extent do they address concern of social justice? So these are some of the questions that is this chapter will go on to the explore. Yes. Now see, the workers in a textile mill in Ahmedabad faced greater competition from power looms. A majority of textile mills closed down during the 1980s and 1990s. Power looms are small units with 4 to 6 looms. The owners operate them with hired and family labor. It is well known that conditions of work in the power looms are far from satisfactory. Yes, according to the 2011 census, over 4 billion children in India aged between 5 and 14 work in various occupations including hazardous one. So in 2006 in Parliament amended the Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986 which banning the employment of children below the age of 14 years in all occupations and of adolescents like 14 to 18 years in hazardous occupations and processes. So it made employing these children or adolescents a cognizable offense. So anyone found violating the ban must be penalized with punishment ranging from a jail term of 6 months to 2 years and or fine of 20,000 to 50,000. Yes, the central government had asked the state governments to develop plans to rescue and rehabilitate children who are working. So an online portal that is pencilgov.in, a platform for effective enforcement for the no child labor. Yes, the platform for effective enforcement of no child labor has become functional in 2017. So it made for filing of complaint, child tracking, implementation and monitoring of National Child Labor Project NCLP. Yes. Now see, the Bhopal gas tragedy. Yes, the world's worst industrial tragedy, which took place in Bhopal 24 years ago. So, Union Carbide, an American company, had a factory in the city which it produced pesticides. At midnight on 2nd December 1984, a methyl isonite, MIC, a highly poisonous gas, started leaking from this Union Carbide plant. Yes. So, so after this tragedy, within 3 days, more than 8,000 people were dead. Hundreds of thousands were maimed. Yes. Most of those exposed to the poisonous gas came from poor working class families, of which nearly 50,000 people are today to seek to work. So among those who survived, many developed severe respiratory disorders, eye problems and other disorders. So children developed peculiar abnormalities like the girl in the photo. Yes. So the disaster was not an accident. So Union Carbide had deliberately ignored the essential safety measures in order to cut costs. So much before the Bhopal disaster, there had been incident of gas leaking of worker and injuring several. Yes, injuring several. Yes. So the accidents are common. Now, after this incident, we'll see the accidents are common to construction sites, yet very often safety equipments and other precautions are ignored. Yes. So, what is the worker's worth? Yes. As we know, for any industry, worker's role is very important. Yes. So, if we are to understand events leading to Bhopal disaster, we have to ask, why did Union Carbide set up its plant in India? So one reason why foreign companies come to India is for cheap labor. Yes, wages that the companies pay to workers, say in the USA, are far higher than what they have to pay to workers in poorer countries like India for lower pay, companies can get longer hours of work. Additional expenses such as housing facilities for workers are also fewer. Thus, companies can save costs and earn higher profits. Yes. So, cost cutting can also be done by other more dangerous means. So, lower working conditions, including lower safety measures, are used as a way of cutting costs. In the Union Carbide plant, every safety device was malfunctioning or was in short supply. So between 1980 and 1984, the work crew for the MIC plant was cut in half from 12 to 6 workers. Yes, the period of safety training for workers was brought down from 6 months to 15 days. The post of night shift worker for the MIC plant was abolished. Yes, now we'll see the comparison between Union Carbide's safety system in Bhopal and its other plants in the United States. Yes, at West Virginia, USA, computerized warning and monitoring systems were in place, whereas the UC plant in Bhopal relied on manual gauges and human sensors to detect gas leaks. At the West Virginia plant, emergency evacuation plans were in place but non-existent in Bhopal. Yes, why are there such sharp differences in safety standard across countries? And even the disaster happened. Why was the compensation to the victims too so low? So on the part of the answer lies in what is perceived as the worth of Indian worker. So one worker can easily replace another since there is since there is so much unemployment. There are many workers who are willing to work in unsafe conditions in return for a wages. Making use of the workers' vulnerability. Employers ignore safety in workplace. Thus, even so many years after the Bhopal gas tragedy, there are regular reports of accidents in construction sites, mines, or factories due to the callous attitude of the employees. Yes. Now, enforcement of safety laws. So, as a lawmaker and enforcer, the government is supposed to ensure that safety laws are implemented, and it is also the duty of the government to ensure that the right to life guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution is not violated. Yes. So, what was the government doing when there were such blatant violations of safety standards in the Union Carbide plant? Yes, the safety laws were lax in India, and second, even these weak safety laws were not enforced. So, the part of enforcement of safety laws. Now, just take an example, friends. How many of you visited the manufacturing units where they are following the fire safety measures? Yes, now tell me. So the reason may be vary from organization to organization, like cost cutting or ignorance, but the fire safety measures are important, but maximum organizations are reluctant to implement these safety measures. Yes. Then government officials refused to recognize the plant as hazardous and allowed it to come to the populated locality. Yes, we are talking about UC plant in Bhopal. So when some municipal officials in Bhopal objected that the installation of an MIC production unit in 1978 was a safety violation, the position of the government was that the state needs to continue investment of the Bhopal plant, which provides jobs. So it was unthinkable, according to them, to ask UC to shift to cleaner technology or safer procedures. So government inspector continued to approve the procedures in the plant, even when repeated incident of leaks from the plant made it obvious to everybody that things were seriously wrong. Yes. So this, as we know, is contrary to what the role of a law which making an enforcement as it should be. So instead of protecting the interests of the people, their safety was being disregarded both by the government and by private companies. So this is obviously not at all desirable, with more industries being set up both by local and foreign businesses in India. So there is a great need for stronger laws which protecting workers, yes, rights and better enforcement of these laws. Yes. So recently a large travel agency was asked to pay rupees 8 lakh as a compensation to group of tourists. So their foreign trip was poorly managed and they missed Disneyland and shopping in Paris. Yes, why did the victims of Bhopal gas tragedy then get so little for a lifetime of misery and pain? Yes, see the example. Yes. So now we'll see the new laws to protect the environment. Yes, in 1984, there were very few laws protecting the environment in India, and there was hardly any enforcement of these laws. Yes. So, friends, the environment was treated as a free entity, and any industry could pollute the air and water without any restrictions. So, whether it was our rivers, air, groundwater, yes, air, groundwater, the environment was being polluted and the health of people disregarded. So, thus not only was UC a beneficiary of lower safety standard, it didn't have to spend any money to clean up the pollution. So, in the USA, this is a necessary part of the production process. Yes. So, The court also gave a number of judgments which upholding the right to healthy environment as intrinsic to the fundamental right to life. Yes, in Subhash Kumar versus State of Bihar 1991 judgment, the Supreme Court held that the right to life is a fundamental right under Article 21, and it includes the right to the enjoyment of pollution-free water and air for full enjoyment of life. So the government is responsible for setting up laws and procedures that can check pollution, clean rivers, and introduce heavy fines for those who pollute. Yes. Now see, the goal 9 of SDGs Sustainable Development Goals, industry innovation and infrastructure. So now in another picture which shows that pumps at contaminated waste are painted red by the government around the Union Carbide factory in Bhopal, yet local people continue to use them as they have no other accessible source of clean water. Yes, environment as a public facility. So in recent years, while the courts have come out with strong orders on environmental issues, these have sometimes affected people's livelihood adversely. For instance, the courts directed industries in residential areas in Delhi to close down or shift out the city. So several of these industries were polluting the neighborhood, and discharge from these industries was polluting the river Yamuna because they had been set up without following the rules. Yes, but while the court's action solved one problem, it created another. And because of the closure, many workers lost their jobs, and others were forced to go to faraway places where these factories had relocated. Yes, recent research on environmental issues in India has highlighted the fact that the growing concern of the environment among the middle classes is often at the expense of the poor. For example, slums need to be cleaned as a part of city's beautification drive, or as in case about a polluting factory is moved to the outskirts of the city, and while this awareness of the need for a clean environment is increasing, and there is little concern for the safety of the workers themselves. Yes. Now in this image, the workers outside closed factories thrown out of work. Many of the workers end up as small traders or daily wages laborers. Some might find work in even smaller production units. So where the conditions of work are even more exploitative and the enforcement of laws weakened. And in second picture, yes, emissions from vehicle are major causes of environmental pollution. So in the series of ruling, the Supreme Court had ordered all public transport vehicles using diesel well to switch to compressed natural gas (CNG). As a result of this move, air pollution in the cities like Delhi came down considerably. But a recent report by the Center for Science and Environment, New Delhi, shows that the presence of high level of toxic substances in the air, yes, this is due to emissions from car run on diesel, and sharp increase in the number of cars on the road. Yes. Yes. Now friends, the advanced countries are relocating the toxic and hazardous industries to developing countries to take advantage of the weaker laws in the countries and keep their own countries safe. So South Asian countries, particularly India, Bangladesh and Pakistan, is a host for industries producing pesticide, asbestos or processing zinc and lead. So ship breaking is another hazardous industry that is growing rapidly in South Asia. So old ships no longer in use are sent to the shipyards in Bangladesh and India for scrapping. The ships contain potentially dangerous and harmful substances. So this photo shows workers breaking down a ship in Alang, Gujarat. Yes. So laws are necessary in many situations, whether this be the market or office or factory, so as to protect the people from unfair practices. So private companies, contractors, business persons, in order to make higher profits, resort to unfair practices such as paying workers low wages, employing children for work, ignoring the conditions of work, yes, ignoring damages to the environment. So major role of the government therefore is control the activities of private companies by enforcing, upholding laws as to prevent unfair practices and ensure social justice. So this means that the government has to make appropriate laws and also has to enforce the laws. Yes. So people must demand stronger laws which protecting workers' interest so that the right to life is achieved for all. Yes. So decent work and economic growth is also the sustainable development goals included in the SDGs, decent work and economic growth. Yes. Then the constitution as the living ideal. So the right to life is a fundamental right and that constitution guarantees to all the citizens of this country. Yes. So fundamental rights have also served time and again on the basis of making new laws which establishing certain policies to protect all citizens. Yes. The democratic idea is that the constitution established allowed for persons to use the political process to continually ensure that these ideals become a reality in the lives of ordinary citizens. So as the yes. So various chapters in this book we have covered, like which to make clear the democratic ideas that the constitution contains and the ways in which affects people's daily lives. Yes. So we have done this with the intent that this might provide with the tools which we can critically begin to understand and examine the world around us and participate in it as the Constitution prescribes. Yes. So friends, here we have covered the law and social justice. So in today's session we have covered social justice and the marginalized and economic presence of the government. So here we have wind up with the social and political life part 3 NCERT of class 8 standard. Yes friends. So please do not forget the new batches. You can also attend free test series by Unacademy and you can enroll yourself for Unacademy Combat. So friends, that's it for today's session. Yes. So see you in the next marathon with new NCERT. And before that, we will conclude our remaining NCERTs in other marathon sessions as well. You can attend special classes on Unacademy app. So please like, share and subscribe to Unacademy videos. You will get notifications for our various lectures. Yes. So keep studying, keep revising. Take care. All the best.